Good evening and welcome back to blackdoctor.org. I am your host, Dr. Renee, and this is a special episode. In case you did not know, this week is called Black Maternal Health Week. It started on the 11th and it ends actually tomorrow. So, you have to have your head under a rock not to know that there's unfortunately a horrible statistics when it comes to Black women giving birth in this country. And for us to be the country that we are and as advanced as we are and all of that, it is just awful that there are third world countries that are not having as many deaths as we are. So quickly, I want to tell you, the U.S. has the highest maternal mortality rate of any high income country, and the crisis disproportionately affects women of color. Share these videos. I'm going to show you some amazing videos and help us raise awareness for two proven solutions to address the maternal health crises: doula support and midwives. And if you've watched my show before, then you know that we've had midwives and we've had doulas on before to talk about how they are helping this terrible crisis. So I am going to introduce my guests today. Oh, what am I saying? Housekeeping. Everyone, share the broadcast. Sharing is caring. Please share the broadcast because inevitably, either you know somebody about to give birth, you know somebody who is one day, maybe 10 years from now is going to give birth, whatever. You need to share the broadcast. And even if you don't know anyone that's currently pregnant, you can be someone's advocate to help them. Hopefully, God forbid, that they don't run into some situation when they're about to give birth. You might be able to pick up some tools here that would help you to be able to advocate for them. So please make sure you share the broadcast. No matter where you're watching, share the broadcast. Make sure that you have liked and subscribed and all that good stuff to the pages so that you know when Black Doctor has new videos, when I have new videos and all that good stuff. And if you would like more information, I have a ticker that is going to be going through the whole show, and it is RWJF.org/birthing stories. Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, thank you so much for these lovely documentaries. And please visit the website and see how you could help this situation. Because I'm sure, unfortunately, we've heard some horrible stories, especially most recently about the Kansas City Chiefs cheerleader. And here we are. So good evening, ladies. So tonight we have with us Jennie Joseph of Common Sense Birth. And then Chanel, Porchia-Albert, her ancient song. It all came back to me. So first we're gonna watch the Common Sense Birth documentary.
Standardizing care, listening, support, respect, dignity. That opens up for anybody the opportunity to have the individualized care that every human being deserves.
Hi, how are you? It's good to see you again.
I just want to acknowledge what you guys pulled off here. We were ready for, some difficulties, and yet it was all pretty smooth.
They kept trying to give me advice saying she might get shoulder dystocia and I might trying to scare me into getting a C-section. Mm-hmm. But I pushed through it and she came out just fine.
Let's go weigh this little one. She's probably going to break my scale, but that's okay. Oh, I knew it. Do you see this?
13.
13 with the clothes. So even a couple of ounces off for her clothes.
13.
She's about to be 13 pounds. Hello?
At 6 weeks.
At 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow. I've been a midwife for 42 years. The absolute joy and power of being in that profession and that role, it has given me that fighting spirit that says every person deserves this type of care, this type of support. Marginalized folk, people of color, low-income folk, uninsured people, undocumented people. The type of care that these folk are receiving or not receiving is so detrimental, I'm declaring a state of emergency. I think we're on the road to recovery and to wholeness and health. And sleepiness.
My birthing experience before finding common sense childbirth was traumatic. When I became pregnant the very first time, I was 17. I really didn't have a good support system at home. The doctor couldn't really tell me what was wrong. When I was 7 months, he finally told me that I needed to go to the emergency room because he thought that the baby would have a better chance to survive outside the womb versus inside the womb. So when I went, I gave birth, they rushed him out to NICU. And then like an hour later, basically the nurses told me if I wanted him to die in my arms or on the machines, and I still didn't know what was wrong with my baby. They just told me he had underdeveloped organs and there was no possible way that he could live.
These people are bringing life. How could we not be respectful of that? What Common Sense Childbirth helped me do was to recreate a version of the grand midwives, the indigenous midwives, the immigrant midwives, the people who delivered the United States. From enslavement on through, it was the midwives who delivered everybody because everybody had a home birth. When I got to the States, I had some gynecological issues. When I went to a consult with a physician, I went literally like a sheep to the slaughter. I really didn't know what happened, but long story short, I ended up at 30 with my uterus and my ovaries removed for what wasn't even a life-threatening condition. That was a pivotal moment. That still drives me to this day. When I'm working with patients, I don't want anything near what happened to me to happen to them ever. That has me compelled to keep going and to keep growing this so that we can eliminate the system that says these disparities are fine. We'll just keep talking about it, doing some research, having a convention, and shrugging our shoulders.
My wish for Black women, I hope that they don't experience anything that's traumatizing like I had to, and I hope that doctors and physicians and nurses treat us all the same with care and advocate for us because that's what you're supposed to do.
So how do we work as a collective, a national community of folk who are providing support? We do that through our National Perinatal Task Force, where we do collective leadership, mentoring and support. I opened up Common Sense Childbirth School of Midwifery for midwives of color who want to serve their communities. We've made it our business to train doulas, childbirth educators, community health workers, lactation education, and incorporated the need to understand and be a part of a community that you want to service.
I am in my first year of midwifery school at Common Sense Childbirth. I am a very proud queer, BIPOC, full-spectrum doula, childbirth educator, certified perinatal educator, domestic violence, child abuse, and rape advocate for over 20 years. One of my sons said to me, he goes, "Mommy, do you really want to be a midwife?" My wife said to me, "When are you going to start?" And I was like, I don't know, babe. When I turn 50, I don't know. And it just so happened the first day of class was on my 50th birthday. So Spirit said, "Toma, this is where you need to be." So using everything that I've learned with doula work, it's a lot of energy exchange that we do. We try to be that safe space for people to be heard, to be seen. Jennie gives that accessible, respectful care. Everyone is treated with love, respect.
I see hope through the students. It's always such a joy when students discover something like, "Oh my gosh, I think I found the foot." It just gives me so much pleasure because these are literal hands-on skills that can be passed on generation after generation. My granddaughter, who is 4, Amaya, I was able to deliver her myself. She was born here in my birthing center. It was spectacular. When she does come up to the clinics, she's in charge. She has her stethoscope. She's ready to go. It's so important to me to be able to pass this legacy on. I do this work because I love it. I don't know how to do anything else. I don't want to do anything else.
Okay. Jennie, Chanel?
Okay.
That was really, really amazing and very touching. And what a story. What a story.
Thank you. Thank
Now,
you.
you had the surgery. It was in the UK or was here?
It was here. No, this is the whole point.
I had the same condition. I had endometriosis my whole adult life. And within a year of being here, I was totally, literally without a uterus or ovaries, both ovaries. I had a menopause at 30 because of this surgery, which technically I consented for.
Without really understanding what was going on, because no advocates.
Well, and also I didn't understand the history. This is
Right.
not unusual in the United States. The amount of Black women, people of color who don't have a uterus or have had tubal ligations or all kinds of gynecological, this is historical. This is not something that just came up recently.
Nope. I mean, it goes back to the testing that they did on the slaves, and
yes,
and that's how they discovered some of these gynecological procedures, unfortunately. Yeah. It's crazy. So where is Common Sense Birth?
Well, we're operating out of Central Florida, but at this point, we're growing nationally. We have folk who work through our programs and alongside our programs across the country. We also have midwifery school now that is nationally. We have students from all different states. We have a hybrid program. It's just so exciting. We have grown. This is our 26th year as a nonprofit organization, and it started out as a small midwife clinic. And we have a birthing center, we have clinics, we have training programs, we train doulas, childbirth educators, community health workers, and midwives.
That is awesome. 26 years, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your work, my God. I can only imagine how many babies you've brought through.
Yeah, I stopped counting. I've been delivering babies for 42 years at this point. I started when I was 19, and I don't know how many babies I've delivered, but it's a whole lot.
Right. That is awesome. And so what could you tell our audience as far as, because, a lot of people watching, they're just lay people that are just a partner trying to support their partner or whatever. It's not necessarily somebody who's medically, and doesn't have medical education. So what would you tell them so that they could help in case something was to happen, when their loved one was delivering?
One of the biggest problems, Dr. Renee, is that Black women, BIPOC women of color, Indigenous women are not listened to. It doesn't matter who you are or how you relate to that pregnant person or that postpartum mama, listen, just do that one thing. That in and of itself is going to make the difference, possibly between life and death. Believe her when she tells you what she's experiencing, what she's struggling with, what it doesn't feel right. Don't let her have to do this by herself. Right now, as we've had so much awareness built every year, this is the 7th year of Black Maternal Health Week, and we are rolling at this point. People are beginning to understand the message, and they are beginning to realize the importance of advocating for every birthing person or every potential birthing person in this country of any race, but Black women. Please support Black women, Indigenous women, immigrant women, people who are marginalized in any way, shape, or form. We are at risk of the real root cause for this problem, and that is racism, classism, gender discrimination. This is about power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So at the very least, stand with that person. Don't leave them alone. You cannot navigate the system as it stands right now and necessarily come out whole.
Yeah. And that's, it's awful. I will tell you, when I was in med school, there was this one OBGYN that she was just so amazing, and she was so sweet, and just the patients loved her, and she just had this calming spirit. And I'm not saying that others don't, because my mentor is an amazing OBGYN as well. But this woman, she finally told me she was a midwife that decided to go to med school and become a doctor. And I was like, wow. So she was like, so I've been on that side. And so I was
you feel the difference, right? You just feel it. So, in my world, I consider everyone as a midwife. All of us has the propensity to be and the compassion to be with woman. The word midwife means with woman. So if you start right there, doesn't mean that you solve every medical issue or you have an answer to all the questions or the problems, but in that recognition of their humanity,
yes,
respect and their dignity is maintained, subsequently they will do better no matter what's going on. The other thing I'll say is fight when you know that that's exactly the opposite of what that person's receiving. If it means changing providers, finding clinicians,
Right.
finding a doula, finding a midwife, find someone out there to be on the team so that we are on team, full-term healthy baby, mother that is whole, father and family that are involved and engaged. Everybody's empowered to have the best possible experience they can have, no matter what their circumstances.
Yes. And it's, and a lot of people tend to think that it starts, after the baby's born, but it starts at the very beginning. You've got to, prenatal care is very important.
But with the right people. And so, when we discover the providers there where you know that they are going to be treated right, that they're going to be listened to, that they're going to be respected, then keep sharing, right? We need folk to be able to find those people, find those clinics, find those practices. And if they can't find them, have support where they are lacking. All right. It is all about support. This doesn't happen in any other country around the world. Where there's maternal mortality or morbidity, it's because of lack of resources, not this situation we have here where we have the most resource country, the most affluent country, the largest medical system. The biggest reason for medical hospital admissions is obstetrics, right? It's like, how have we got to this when everything that we need is right here already? It is about a complete disregard for improvement, given that we have everything right here. We have the solutions. Our community providers have the solutions. Our communities are ready. We are always our own best resource. And yet.
Yes. Yep. And we say here all the time, I've said it a million times, but there is studies been done that you will get better care if you are being treated by someone that looks like you.
That's right.
There are studies that have been done. Yes. They have been done on adults as well as children.
So even the babies.
Exactly. So if you need to try and find a Black doctor, a midwife, please try to find so that you can make certain that that person has your best interests at heart, is looking out for you, has your back. Because I tell people the stories of Serena Williams, who was sitting there after her birth and was having trouble breathing and said, I have a clotting issue. I need a CT scan. And they did not want to listen to her.
Right. I mean, imagine that you have to advocate for your own life in that way. I mean, thank God she prevailed. She managed to survive. She's had another baby. She's fine. But just how close a call that was for her. And the only reason she's here is because she was able to advocate for herself to that level. We have to support everybody to have that ability, to have that realization that they must be able to watch out for what's happening and to have their say. They need to be heard. It's heartbreaking. And I feel, inside of all of this, the negativity that's there, we also have to, stand on our power. We, Black midwives, Indigenous midwives, delivered America. From enslavement onwards. We were the guardians, if you will, of the commodity that was human chattel, right? The African midwives brought their skills, their techniques, and they passed it on. They trained the next generations. This continued on through Jim Crow. When hospitals became the place to have babies, where people were pushed into hospital births as the new answer to the safest, best thing, Black people were still relegated to, well, you can come in the back door if you can come in at all, right? Everybody in America had a home birth until that happened. Midwives were eradicated on purpose. Community midwives were stripped from their communities. Our work now, what we do now, we train midwives, we train doulas, we train educators and lactation supporters. We train so that we can return trusted providers back to the hearts of their community. We want to take the community space back. We want to come alongside what is necessary in terms of, we do need hospitals, we do need OBGYNs, we need emergency support. But for the most part, pregnancy is not an illness. These harms, this violence shows up and turns what can normally be a straightforward run into something complicated.
And it's crazy how a lot of the most recent, headlines of these deaths have been really healthy women.
Yes. It is
So,
preventable
perfect
causes.
example of a cheerleader, the former cheerleader. These are not people that have 20 underlying conditions. These are
That's
people
right.
who came into the hospital, were having really pregnancies, and then all of a sudden they come up dead.
Right.
There was a resident in Indiana. She was a medical resident. I'm not sure what her specialty was, but she died and left her husband with two kids. He's by himself now.
Right.
And she was a doctor. She was, walking the floor. She was fine. And then she wasn't here anymore. So it's really, really, I mean, it doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter
Yes.
where you live. It's just, if you are a Black woman, I'm telling you it. And I know from the Black women that I know that are pregnant now or have been pregnant recently, they are terrified. They literally are, in our Facebook groups asking for prayers because they're about to be induced, or because, they're delivering next, because you just never know anymore.
Well, what we do know, Dr. Renee, and I think it's really worth stressing this, that it is these interventions that are, for the most part, more about keeping a system running and training a workforce to be efficient and to cover the litigious nature, to defensively practice, to proactively overdo. And there's
CYA
no
is what we call it.
Say it again.
CYA.
Yes, and I feel for both parties. I feel obviously for mother, babies, families, and communities that are struggling and suffering through this situation, but I also feel for providers, because we have created a model that now we can't dismantle. Right? This has normalized interventions as if this is the only way. So once you're inside of a system that says there's something wrong with you and you need to be fixed, and this is how you get fixed. Have this baby induced at 39 weeks. Have the C-section rather than wait through, the length of labor that a natural labor might take. Have, medication to make the labor go faster when it's not going fast enough. These are called interventions for a reason. If left alone, I always put this as an analogy. What would you do if you went into labor in the middle of a hurricane and the tree fell across your front door and you couldn't get out of your house? You'd have the baby. What else would happen?
Right.
So we have now created this situation where there's no way you can have a baby without all of these additional pieces, interventions, and, medicalized, everything has led us to a sorry mess. 1 in 3 women in the United States are having a baby by cesarean section. Think about that. On a body of land, if you went across another ocean, either way, that pelvis is bigger. Like, these women and mothers are able to push longer. What is it like that the American pelvis is now incapable of managing a baby? 1 in 3 are having a C-section. Statistically, there's something smelling really bad here.
Right.
When you put somebody through surgery unnecessarily, especially when, these could have been preventable, because why are we inducing somebody when their body's not ready and then having to fix the mess we created by forcing labor and having a baby go into distress? We have a problem. This is iatrogenic. This is caused by the system as opposed to by the person. So those tropes, those stereotypes that are out there, well, Black women are too heavy. Black women don't eat right. They don't get prenatal care on time. They didn't do this, they didn't do that. Stop blaming the women. This is not about race, this is about racism. It is time to unpack and blow these myths out of the water. These are stereotypes, tropes, and egregious harms that literally have now affected physiology.
Yeah.
There's a problem here.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, and it's bad when the OBGYN has a baby and they go into issues and have to, advocate for themselves, and their husbands are advocating for that. It's bad.
Yes. It's like, yes. I mean, we have a statistic that is quite stark in that a white high school dropout has a better chance of surviving labor and delivery or pregnancy complications than a Black woman of any demographic. Wealthy, educated, supported, insured, you name it. This is not about poverty. This is not about misbehavior. This is not about, want and disregard, you don't care about your baby, or you would sign this paper right now. All of these things that are coming against us as Black women, as people of color, those are the root causes for this so-called crisis. And this is not anything other than something that has been created and now is being perpetuated. Yeah. These are, for the most part, preventable harms. And all of us, Black, white, or any other race or ethnicity, are suffering because the system works this way for this particular reason.
Yeah. In med school, I was at Cook County in Chicago, and Cook County's labor and delivery, we had OBGYNs and we also had midwives. And they took call just like the OBGYNs, and so we worked very well together. We also had lactation consultants on the floor as well. Yes. For this would be the county hospital. That was pretty impressive that they did have all this, but they did. And they, they went and talked to the moms and tried to, explain, breastfeeding and what the benefits were and how to do it and stuff. And so, unfortunately, this is not something that's at every hospital.
Exactly. It's really sad that, there are some hospitals where they do specific extra work to do safety drills, and they have the nursing teams on point. And then there's others where that's nothing like what you're going to experience. Right. It's about financial, it's about capitalism, it's about power, it's about politics, it's about everything else but what it needs to be about. Everywhere else in the world, midwifery, the midwives are the primary healthcare providers for childbearing women. The obstetricians are on standby for complicated cases and for emergencies. That is the midwifery model of care, and it has been like that since time began. And in every other country where midwives are taking care of pregnant and postpartum and birthing women, those collaborative relationships are safe and they are sound. They are the main staple of the model. The outcomes then are reflected. So when we wantonly choose to not incorporate midwifery in every hospital, every jurisdiction, every institution, home birth, birth center birth, hospital birth, when we wantonly choose not to, we are going against our own best interest, our own humanity. We have the details, we have the studies that show when midwifery is integrated in the United States, mothers, babies, families do better. Our work at Common Sense Childbirth over these 26 years has proven we have literally eradicated prematurity. Our mothers and families do not suffer prematurity. Our babies go to term. Our babies are born at an average birth weight of 7.5 pounds. Our mothers are breastfeeding. We have done nothing fancy other than just listen, take care. We turn no one away. Everybody gets a start with us, regardless of insurance, citizenship, finance, whatever. There is no barrier to care, and the outcomes speak for themselves.
That is wonderful. And I'm glad that you've been able to be funded so that you can continue this work, because it is so important, as we see.
Absolutely.
So we're going to watch the next documentary. It is Ancient Song. Here we go.
I am beautiful. 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 I am here. 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 I am blessed. And I am blessed. And I am blessed. And I am blessed. I am blessed. I am blessed. You ready to be a doula? Yes. Are you ready to serve your community? Yes. All right, now let's go. Sit down.
We are doulas, girls. Stop it. Ready to be.
Giving birth is very spiritual. It is grounding. It is centered in nature. It is the one time where I feel like people are totally and completely free. You can't be a Black doula in a space and just be offering emotional and physical support. you have the duty of really pushing forth advocacy and systemic change. I am a mother of 6 children. They and my husband are the catalyst for my work. My first child was born at home in this neighborhood, a couple blocks away. And when I was in the labor process, they said I was singing. And that's where the name Ancient Song comes from. Everybody has an ancient song that they sing. In 2008, after the birth of my first child, I took a doula training. And we're talking about Black maternal health and why it is so important. After that, I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing this. Like, I'm gonna be a doula. As I started to take on births, I started to see the way in which people were treated. The criminalization of Black bodies, police being called on partners, the ways in which folks who were on Medicaid were treated. And I was like, wait a minute, I didn't learn about this in doula training. The population that we serve is primarily women of color, low-income individuals, people at the intersections of like housing insecurity, food insecurity, intimate partner violence. I can't be the only person who is witnessing bodies being harmed and not want to do something about it. We train folks to be full spectrum doulas and support individuals through their reproductive health choices and their bodily autonomy and making sure pregnant people's voices are heard.
As doulas, I want you to be able to have the tools to be able to help people to navigate these situations. It is about centering someone in what their choices are for themselves and for their bodily autonomy and for their own human rights. All of these things are important and really being able to adequately support someone.
Chanel is very genuine and kind. I know that she takes this work that seriously, that she's creating this type of space. I am very excited. I am 39 weeks, so very close to the finish line. My mom passed last year. She had been ill with cancer for about 7 years. So my mother not being physically here to be a part of this process, it's been very challenging. When I realized that I was pregnant, I knew I would need someone to support me because my mother wasn't physically here. Because of Ancient Song, I have more knowledge. I have more knowledge of my own body. I have more knowledge of my rights. I feel very blessed to have a community and a team that are aligned with my values. And I feel really grateful because I knew that I wanted to have Chanel supporting through this process.
To give your life into service of others is something different because we are not taught in society to do that. There is something more.
Everybody has a purpose. Doula trainings, that is my purpose. We get to see what it feels like to be in community.
Today has been great. I saw a new life come into the world, so that's always a blessing. And Janelle was great. She was calm, she was excited. So yeah, baby has got a lot of blessings coming into the world.
You know, the blessing about this work is that you get to go outside and you get to see the people that you helped. And you get to see the children grow up.
To see someone come into themselves as a parent, as a mother, as an individual, it's amazing. The advocacy work of Ancient Song really stems from listening to the lived experiences of individuals. We have been advocating for Medicaid doula reimbursement. And last year, we were able to get a bill signed into law that created a doula registry. I want to tell the story of hope. Our ancestors and our elders had hope for the present. They had hope for the future. And if we really want to shift the ways in which people experience healthcare, then we have to bring the humanity back to it. And that is the only way that anything is going to change. When we choose to see our own humanity first, that allows us the ability to see others' humanity.
Hi, Chanel.
Greetings.
Thank
Hi.
you for your work. That was amazing. First, let's start off because Jenny said it several times. Tell people exactly what is a doula.
Okay. A doula is someone who offers emotional and physical support
Oh no, she's
to
going in and out.
answering questions so that they can make an informed decision. So they can make an informed decision about their care. But when we're talking about centering Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities, we're talking about advocacy as well.
Yes. So she is actually on the train from advocating from the Capitol. Did you change any laws today?
No, not yet. But I
Okay,
can see quite a few senators and shared in a conversation around what it means to center maternal health and reproductive health choices.
That's awesome. So the thing, audience, is that doulas are unfortunately not covered most of the time from people's insurance, although they are a key component to Black women surviving their pregnancy, their deliveries usually, because they are there to advocate for them. And so, so that is a huge problem. And I just saw here in Detroit, locally on the news, they talked about a program that is paying for the doulas out of Henry Ford Hospital. And the doctor, and I should have remembered her name, and I don't. I want to say it's Dr. Pitts, but she said that she's trying to get this program to spread so that it would go across the country, besides just this, these two hospitals here in Michigan. But that is a huge problem. And I know doulas do so much more, though, because my cousin had a doula, and she, after the delivery, the doula was helping her out a lot. And then I had another friend that I know that she had twins. One was in the NICU. Well, they were both in the NICU, but one came home before the other, and the doula was there to pinch hit for her. So I know that you guys do so much more than just getting them through the labor process.
Right. So we act as a community connection, right? So when we're thinking about the ways in which individuals interface with, hospital-based institutions, we're helping them to navigate through that space. We're providing, advocacy resources, and helping them to really lift up what it means for them to affirm themselves as parents. Just like you said, I'm on my way coming from Washington, D.C. And so, we're also in the policy space. We're lifting up policy around, the Omnibus Act and other legislation that's not just centered in doulas, but also centered in, lifting up the perinatal workforce, midwives, and, Black OBGYNs, trying to get funding in regards to data collection and, really change systemic policies that have traditionally harmed individuals who are just going in to give birth.
So,
by the way,
go ahead.
By the way, your state of Michigan has not recognized Ancient Song as a doula training organization in their Medicaid doula reimbursement. So we got to work on that.
Oh, okay. So, hey, and actually, I told Jenny, one of my friends is a doula here, and she's been on the show before. Her company's called Doulas Do, Erica Millender. But yeah, so I'm very familiar, and it's crazy. Now when you first heard about doulas, it seemed like only those people had doulas, not us. Because it was like we couldn't afford that or anything, and so now it's really nice to hear that it's so common and everyone is talking about doulas. It's not, uncommon. I mean, I hear dudes that are having wives that are having children, and they're like, the bros are talking and they're like, hey, my wife's doula. And I was like, wow, the conversation really has changed, which is a great thing because we need all hands on deck.
We
And
do.
we really need all hands on deck because at that time, she can't necessarily advocate for herself. She's a little busy. So somebody needs to be in the room to be able to make sure that mom's needs are taken care of and that she's heard.
Yeah, I
So
think I
go
think
ahead.
we also want to kind of reframe the conversation around not just thinking about when they're in the act of birthing, right? Because that's not the time where you really want to be advocating. You want to be having these conversations prior to, right?
The whole
Centering a
way.
framework of setting a framework of education. What does it mean for someone to know what their options are? You know what I mean? So it's not just about a hospital-based birth. You can go to a birthing center. You can, have a home birth. Depending on what state you live in. And so, really looking at what your are, so you can make an informed decision about your care and what that means for you. um, yeah, you never want to be in the moment. And while I am as a doula, I'm super excited about the conversation around lifting up doulas. We really want to have a broader conversation around our maternal health infrastructure as a whole and as a nation, right? And how are we centering conversations around obstetric violence, around bringing more midwifery care models into the conversation, while also looking at doulas, right? So we're working in tandem together to really center, maternal health as a whole.
Yeah. So Ancient Song, do you teach do you have like a hybrid model like Jenny so that people outside of New York
We
can
do.
learn? Okay, awesome.
We do. We definitely do. It's not something that we offer frequently because we found that in-person learning is invaluable. But it is one of the ways in which we're able to engage with folks across the nation and globally as well, right? Because we, conduct maternal health work in Ethiopia as well as in some Caribbean islands, and so it's a way for us to stay connected with everyone.
That's wonderful. That is just wonderful. So as I said, you guys, please visit this website at the bottom, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation .org/birthing stories. So you guys can please share these documentaries because they, as you see, short, sweet, and to the point. They get the messaging out, but it's really important messaging in case you didn't notice. And so I also want to make sure that we have a little call to action here. Second. Oh, and of course, that now Ancient Song is Ancient Song nonprofit as well.
No, we're actually a business.
Okay. And then but your giveaway
Oh, we
was fun.
so we work so right. So we are a business, but we work from a social impact perspective, right? And so, what does it mean for corporations to be socially responsible in the work that they're doing to community? And that's what we do. You know what I mean? We're making sure that we are being socially responsible to the communities that we're in, and giving back on a monthly basis in amazing ways. So not just through giveaways, but also again through advocacy work, legislative policy, and the doula services that we provide to communities every single day.
Yeah, so please, everyone, if you can, share these videos, help raise awareness. Yes, tomorrow ends Black Maternal Health Week, but babies are being born every day from Black women. So can we please, let's keep the conversation going. As she mentioned, I can't believe it's only been 7 years that this week has existed. And they have made so many strides because we just talked about how it almost feels like it's an entire month because there's so many conversations and activities this month. So let's keep it going because we have to get these policies changed. Midwives, like I said, I don't know if you heard, Chanel, when I was at Cook County, the midwives were on the floor with us in labor and delivery and the lactation consultants. And so that community in Chicago had, everything right there at their fingertips. So, so it's really important that we do advocate for these things because they're very important. Midwives are important, doulas are important. All these people are very important so that we can have good health outcomes because the numbers should not be like this for a country that has as many resources as we do. It just doesn't make sense. And people should not be nervous and fearful when they get pregnant because they don't know what's going to happen. And are they going to make it through the 10 months or are they going to make it after to the fourth what is it? The postpartum, are they going to make it? They don't want to, they shouldn't have to worry about that because as we said, pregnancy is not a disease state. It's a condition, it's a temporary condition. You give birth. People have been giving birth since the beginning of time. And we shouldn't all of a sudden have this problem in this country of all places. So are there any last words that either one of you have you want to share with our audience? You guys can find them. You have their handles are right there, and their handles are also, their websites are in the post. So but go ahead. Jennie, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say, keep asking. Check in on your sister, your neighbor, your workmate. Ask, are you okay? How was that birth? How are you feeling since the birth? When is your baby due? How are you doing? Just keep the conversation going. Listen to what they tell you and know that they can get support. Any type of support is going to be valuable in this circumstance.
Yeah, and I would just lift up that even if you're not thinking about getting pregnant anytime soon or not pregnant, don't want to have children yourself, pass on that information to someone that you know. You know what I mean? It's the old saying of each one teach one. You know what I mean? And there's one hand to give, one hand to
Okay.
the conversation.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we're about to lose Chanel. So hold on. But everyone, please visit the website, watch the movies, share with others, and have the conversation.
Please.
We need to have the conversation, like she said, not at the last minute, but beforehand. So we have, everyone is on board. They know what's going on, and you can plan. And please try and find the right doctor, midwife, whatever for you. And if that person you notice is not the right one for you, quickly pivot and switch. Do not sit there and go through. If you know that this person is not listening to you during your second and third month, then I don't know why you think they're going to listen to you when it comes down to the delivery. Please pivot quickly, abort ship and change course, because you do not want to have a bad outcome because the doctor was not listening to you and your partner. So I will see you guys again next week. Thank you so much for watching. And please don't forget to share this broadcast, even if you're watching the replay. We appreciate it. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.